Now it chanced that on the time of spring, Finrod was, for a while, a guest in the house of Belemir, and he fell to talking with Andreth the wise woman concerning men and their fates. For at that time Boron, lord of the folk of Beor, had but lately died soon after Yule, and Finrod was grieved. Sad to me, Andreth, he said, is the swift passing of your people. For now Boron, your father's father, is gone, and though he was old, you say, as age goes among men, yet I had known him too briefly. Little while indeed it seems to me, since I first saw Beor in the east of this land, yet now he is gone, and his son's son also. More than 100 years it is now, said Andreth, since we came over the mountains, and Beor and Baran and Boron each lived beyond his 90th year. Our passing was swifter before we found this land. Then are you content here? Said Finrod. Content? Said Andreth. No heart of man is content. Our passing and dying is a grief to it, but if the withering is less soon, then that is some amendment, a little lifting of the shadow. What mean you by that? Said Finrod. Surely you know well, said Andreth, the darkness that is now confined to the north but once. And here she paused, and her eyes sparkled as if her mind were gone back into black years best forgot, but once lay upon all Middle Earth while you dwelt in your bliss. It was not concerning the shadow that I asked, said Finrod. What mean you, I would say, by the lifting of it, or how is the swift fate of men concerned with it? Ye also, we hold, being instructed by the great who know, are children of Eru, and your fate and nature is from him. I see, said Andreth, that in this, ye of the high elves do not differ from your lesser kindred whom we have met in the world, though they have never dwelt in the light. All ye elves deem that we die swiftly by our true kind, that we are brittle and brief, and ye are strong and lasting. We may be children of Eru, as we say in your lore, but we are children to you also, to be loved a little maybe, and yet creatures of less worth, upon whom ye may look down from the height of your power and your knowledge, with a smile or with pity, or with a shaking of heads. Alas, you speak near the truth, said Finrod. At least of many of my people, but not of all, and certainly not of me. But consider this well, Andreth. When we name you children of Eru, we do not speak lightly, for thy name we do not utter, ever in jest or without full intent. When we speak so, we speak out of knowledge, not out of mere elvish lore, and we proclaim that ye are our kin, and a kinship far closer, both of Heroa and Fea, than that which binds together all other creatures of Arda, and ourselves to them. Other creatures also in Middle-earth we love in their measure and kind, the beasts and birds who are our friends, the trees, and even the fair flowers that pass more swiftly than men. Their passing we regret, but believe it to be a part of their nature as much as are their shapes or their hues. But for you, who are our nearer kin, our regret is far greater. Yet, if we consider the briefness of life in all Middle-earth, must we not believe that your brevity is also part of your nature? Do not your own people believe this too? And yet from your words and your bitterness, I guess that you think that we err. I think that you err, and all who think likewise, said Andreth, and that error itself comes of the shadow. But to speak of men, some will say this and some that, but most, thinking little, will ever hold that what is in their brief span in the world has ever been so, and shall so ever remain, whether they like it or no. But there are some that think otherwise, and call them wise, but heed them little. For they do not speak with assurance or with one voice, having no sure knowledge such as ye boast of, but perforce depending upon lore, from which truth, if it can be found, must be winnowed. And in every winnowing there's chaff with the corn that is chosen, and doubtless some corn with the chaff which is rejected. Yet among my people, from wise unto wise out of the darkness, comes a voice saying that men are not now as they were, nor as their true nature was in their beginning. And clearer still is this said by the wise of the people of Merak, who have preserved in memory a name for him that ye call Eru, though in my folk he was almost forgotten. So I learned from Adonai, they say plainly that men are not by nature short-lived, but have become so through the malice of the Lord of the darkness whom they do not name. That I can well believe, said Finrod, that your bodies suffer in some measure the malice of Melkor, for you live in Ardum, marred, as do we, and all the matter of Arda was tainted by him, before ye or we came forth and drew our Heroar, and their sustenance therefore, all save only maybe Aman before he came there. For no, it is not otherwise with the Quendi themselves, their health and stature is diminished. Already those of us who dwell in Middle-earth, and even we who have returned to it, find that the change of their bodies is swifter than in the beginning, and that, I judge, must forebode that they will prove less strong to last than they were designed to be, though this may not be clearly revealed for many long years. And likewise with the Heroar of men, they are weaker than they should be. Thus it comes to pass that here in the west, to which of old his power scarcely extended, they have more health, as you say. Nay, nay, said Andreth, you do not understand my words. For you are ever in one mind, my lord. The elves are the elves, and men are men. And though they have a common enemy, by whom both are injured, still the ordained interval remains between the lords and the humble, the first-comers high and enduring, the followers lowly and of brief service. That is not the voice that the wise hear out of the darkness and from beyond it. Nay, Lord, the wise among men say, we were not made for death, nor born ever to die. Death was imposed upon us, and behold, the fear of it is with us always, and we flee from it, forever as the hart from the hunter. But for myself, I deem that we cannot escape within this world, nay, not even if we could come to the light beyond the sea, or that Aman of which you tell. In that hope we set out and have journeyed through many lives of men. But the hope was vain, so said the wise, but that did not stay the march. For as I have said, they are little heeded, and lo, we have fled from the shadow to the last shores of Middle-earth, to find only that it is here before us. Then Finrod was silent, but after a while he said, these words are strange and terrible, and you speak with the bitterness of one whose pride has been humiliated, and seeks therefore to wound those to whom she speaks. If all the wise among men speak so, then well I can believe that ye have suffered some great hurt, but not by my people, Andreth, nor by any of the Quendi. If we are as we are, and ye are as we find you, that is not by any deed of ours, nor of our desire, and your sorrow does not rejoice us, nor feed our pride. One only would say otherwise, that enemy whom you do not name. Beware of the trap with your corn, Andreth, for it may be deadly, lies of the enemy, that out of envy will breed hate. Not all the voices that come out of the darkness speak truth to those minds that listen for strange news. But who did you this hurt? Who imposed death upon you? Melkor, it is plain that you would say, or whatever name you have for him in secret, for you speak of death and a shadow, as if these were one and the same, and as if to escape from the shadow was to escape also from death. But these two are not the same, Andreth, so I deem, or death will not be found at all in this world which he did not design but another. Nay, death is but the name that we give to something that he was tainted, and it sounds therefore evil, but untainted its name will be good. What do you know of death? You do not fear it because you do not know it, said Andreth. We have seen it, and we fear it, answered Finrod. We too may die, Andreth, and we have died. My father's father was cruelly slain, and many have followed him, exiles in the night, in the cruel ice, and the insatiable sea. And in Middle-earth we have died, by fire and by smoke, by venom, and the cruel blades of battle. Fëanor is dead, and Fingolfin was trodden under the feet of the Morgoth. For what end? To overthrow the shadow, or if that may not be, to keep it from spreading once more over all Middle-earth, to defend the children of Eru, Andreth. all the children, and not the proud Eldar only." "I had heard," said Andreth, "that it was to regain your treasure that your enemy had stolen, but maybe the house of Finarfin is not at one with the sons of Fanor. Nonetheless, for all your valor, I say again, what know you of death? To you it may be in pain, it may be bitter and a loss, but only for a time, a little taken from abundance, unless I have been told untruth. For you know that in dying you do not leave the world, and that you may return to life. Otherwise, it is with us. Dying we die, and we go out to no return. Death is an uttermost end, a loss irredeemable. And it is abominable, for it is also a wrong that is done to us." "That difference I perceive," said Finrod. "You would say there are two deaths, that one is a harm and a loss, but not an end. The other is an end, without redress, and the Quendi suffer only the first?" "Yes, but there is another difference also," said Andreth. "One is but wounding the chances of the world, which the brave, or the strong, or the fortunate may hope to avoid. The other is death ineluctable, death the hunter who cannot in the end be escaped. Be a man strong, or swift, or bold, be he wise or a fool, be he evil, or be he in all the deeds of his days just and merciful. Let him love the world or loathe it, he must die, must leave it, and become carrion that men are fain to hide or to burn. And being thus pursued, have men no hope?" said Finrod. "They have no certainty and no knowledge, only fears or dreams in the dark," answered Andreth. "But hope? Hope, that is another matter, of which even the wise seldom speak." Then her voice grew more gentle. "Yet, Lord Finrod of the house of Finarfin, the high and Husian elves, perhaps we may speak of it anon, you and I." "Anon we may," said Finrod, "but as yet we walk in the shadows of fear. Thus far, then, I perceive that the great difference between elves and men is in the speed of the end, and this only, for if we deem that for the Quendi there is no death ineluctable, you err. Now, none of us know, though the Valar may know, the future of Arda, or how long it is ordained to endure, but it will not endure forever. It was made by Eru, but he is not in it. The one only has no limits. Arda and Ea itself must therefore be bounded. You see us, the Quendi, still in the first ages of our being, and the end is far off. As maybe among you death may seem to a young man in his strength, save that we have long years of life and thought already behind us. But the end will come, that we all know, and then we must die, we must perish utterly, it seems, for we belong to Arda, in Heroa and Fea, and beyond that what? The going out to no return, as you say, the uttermost end, the irredeemable loss? Our hunter is slow-footed, but he never loses the trail. Beyond the day when he shall blow the mort, we have no certainty, no knowledge, and no one speaks to us of hope." "I did not know this," said Andreth, and yet, at least ours is slow-footed, you would say?" said Finrod. "True. But it is not clear that foreseen doom, long delayed, is in all ways a lighter burden than one that comes soon. But if I have understood your words thus far, you do not believe that this difference was designed so in the beginning. You were not at first doomed to swift death." Much could be said concerning this belief, be it a true guess or no. But first I would ask, how do you say that this has come about? By the malice of Melkor, I guessed, and you have not denied it. But I see now that you do not speak of the diminishment that all in Arda March suffer, but of some special stroke of enmity against her people, against men as men. Is that so?" "It is indeed," said Andreth. "Then this is a matter of dread," said Finrod. "We know Melkor the Morgoth, and know him to be mighty. Yea, I have seen him, and I have heard his voice, and I have stood blind in the night that is at the heart of his shadow, whereof you, Andreth, know not save by hearsay and the memory of your people. But never even in the night have we believed that he could prevail against the children of Eru. This one he might cozen, or that he might corrupt, but to change the doom of a whole people of the children, to rob them of their inheritance. If he could do that in Eru's despite, then greater and more terrible is he by far than we guessed. Then all the valor of the Noldor is but presumption and folly. Nay, Valinor and the mountains of the Pelori are builded on sand. Behold, said Andreth, did I not say that you do not know death? Lo, when you are made to face it in thought only, as we know it in deed, and in thought all our lives, and once you fall into a despair, we know, if you do not, that the Nameless is Lord of this world, and your valor, and ours too, is a folly, or at least it is fruitless. Beware, said Finrod, beware lest you speak the unspeakable, wittingly or in ignorance, confounding Eru with the enemy who would fain have you do so. The Lord of this world is not he, but the one who made him, and his vicegerent is Manwe, the elder king of Arda, who is blessed. Nay, Andreth, the mind darkened and distraught, to bow and yet to loathe, to flee and yet not to reject, to love the body and yet scorn it, to carry on disgust. These things may come from the Morgoth indeed, but to doom the deathless to death from father unto son, and yet to leave to them the memory of an inheritance taken away, and the desire for what is lost, could the Morgoth do this? No, I say, and for that reason I said that if your tale is true, then all in Arda is vain, from the pinnacle of Oyolase to the uttermost abyss. For I do not believe your tale. None could have done this save the one. Therefore I say to you, Andreth, what do ye do, ye men long ago in the dark? How do ye anger Eru? For otherwise all your tales are but dark dreams devised in a dark mind. Will you say what you know or have heard? I will not, said Andreth. We do not speak of this to those of other race. But indeed the wise are uncertain and speak with contrary voices, for whatever happened long ago. We have fled from it, we have tried to forget, and so long have we tried that now we cannot remember any time when we were not as we are, save only legends of days when death came less swiftly and our span was still far longer, but already there was death. Ye cannot remember, said Finrod. Are there no tales of your days before death, though you will not tell them to strangers? Maybe, said Andreth, if not among my folk, then among the folk of Adenel, perhaps. She fell silent and gazed at the fire. Do you think that none know save yourselves? Said Finrod at last. Do not the Valar know? Andreth looked up and her eyes darkened. The Valar? She said, how should I know, or any man? Your Valar do not trouble us either with care or with instructions. They sent no summons to us. What do you know of them? Said Finrod. I've seen them and dwelt among them, and in the presence of Manwe and Varda I have stood in the light. Speak not of them so, nor of anything that is high above you. Such words came first out of the lying mouth. Has it never entered into your thought, Andreth, that out there in ages long past you may have put yourselves out of their care, and beyond the reach of their help? Or even that ye, the children of men, were not a matter that they could govern? For you were too great, I mean this, and do not only flatter your pride, too great. So masters of yourselves within Arda, under the hand of the One. Beware then how you speak. If ye will not speak to others of your wound, or how ye came by it, take heed lest, as unskilled leeches, ye misjudge the hurt, or in pride misplace the blame. But let us turn now to other matters, since ye will not say more of this. I would consider your first state before the wound. For what you say of that is also to me a wonder, and hard to understand. You say, we were not made for death, nor born ever to die. What do you mean, that you were as we are, or otherwise? This Lord takes no account of you, said Andreth, for we knew nothing of the Eldar. We considered only dying and not dying, of life as long as the world, but no longer we had not heard. Indeed, not until now has it entered my mind. To speak truly, said Finrod, I had thought that this belief of yours that you two were not made for death was but a dream of your pride, bred in envy of the Quendi, to equal or surpass them. Not so, you will say. Yet longer you came to this land, you met other folk of the Quendi, and by some were befriended. Were ye not then already mortal? Did ye never speak with them concerning life and death? Though without any words, they would soon discover your mortality, and ere long you would perceive that they did not die. Not so, I say indeed, answered Andreth. We may have been mortal when first we met the elves far away, or maybe we were not. Our Lord does not say, or at least none that I have learned. But already we had our lore and needed none from the elves. We knew that in our beginning we had been born never to die. And by that, my lord, we meant born to life everlasting, without any shadow of any end. Then have the wise among you considered how strange is the true nature that they claim for the Atani? Said Finrod. Is it so strange? Said Andreth. Many of the wise hold that in their true nature no living things would die. And that the elder would say that they err, said Finrod. To us your claim for men is strange, and indeed hard to accept, for two reasons. You claim, if we fully understand your own words, to have had imperishable bodies, not bounded by the limits of Arda, and yet derived from its matter and sustained by it. And you claim also, though this you may not have perceived, to have had Heroa and Fair that were from the beginning out of harmony. Yet harmony of Heroa and Fair is, we believe, essential to the true nature and mark of all the Incarnate, the Miroanwi, as we call the children of Eru. The first difficulty I perceive, said Andreth, and to it our wise have their own answer. The second, as you guess, I do not perceive. Do you not? Said Finrod. Then you do not see yourselves clearly. But it may often happen that friends and kinsmen see some things plainly that are hidden from their friend himself. Now we elder are your kinsmen, and your friends also, if you will believe it, and we have observed you already through 3 lives of men with love and concern and much thought. Of this, then we are certain without debate, or else all our wisdom is vain. The fair of men, the close akin indeed to the fair of the Quendi, are yet not the same. For strange as we deem it, we see clearly that the fair of men are not, as are ours, confined to Arda, nor is Arda their home. Can you deny it? Now we Eldar do not deny that you love Arda and all that is therein, in so far as you are free from the shadow, maybe even as greatly as do we. Yet otherwise, each of our kindreds perceives Arda differently, and appraises its beauties in different mode and degree. How shall I say it? To me, the difference seems like that between one who visits a strange country and abides there a while, but need not, and one who has lived in that land always and must. To the former, all things that he sees are new and strange, and in that degree lovable. To the other, all things are familiar, the only things that are his own, and in that degree precious. If you mean that men are the guests, said Andreth. You have said the word, said Finrod. That name we have given to you. Lordly as ever, said Andreth. But even if we be but guests in the land where all is your own, my lords, as you say, tell me what other land or things do we know? Nay, tell me, said Finrod. For if you do not know, how can we? But do you know that the Eldar say of man that they look at no thing for itself, that if they study it, it is to discover something else? That if they love it, it is only, so it seems, because it reminds them of some other dear thing? Yet with what is this comparison? Where are these other things? We are both, elves and men, in Arda and of Arda, and such knowledge as men have is derived from Arda, or so it would appear. Whence then comes this memory that you have with you, even before you begin to learn? It is not of other regions in Arda from which you have journeyed, We also have journeyed from afar, but were you and I to go together to your ancient homes east away, I shall recognize the things there as part of my home. But I should see in your eyes the same wonder and comparison as I see in the eyes of men in Beleriand who were born here." "You speak strange words, Finrod," said Andreth, "which I have not heard before. Yet my heart is stirred as if by some truth that it recognizes, even if it does not understand it. But fleeting is that memory and goes where it can be grasped, and then we grow blind, and those among us who have known the Eldar and maybe have loved them say on our side, there is no weariness in the eyes of the elves, and we find that they do not understand the saying that goes among men, too often seen is seen no longer, and they wonder much that in the tongues of men the same word may mean both long known and stale. We have thought that this was so only because the elves have lasting life and undiminished vigor. Grown-up children, we, the guests, sometimes call you, my lord. And yet, if nothing in Arda for us holds its savor long, and all fair things grow dim, what then? Does it not come from the shadow upon our hearts? Or do you say that it is not so, but this was ever our nature even before the wound?" "I say so indeed," answered Finrod. "The shadow may have darkened your unrest, bringing swifter weariness and soon turning it to disdain. But the unrest was ever there, I believe. And if this is so, then can you not now perceive the disharmony that I spoke of? If indeed your wisdom, my lord, like to ours, teaching that the Meroanwi are made of a union of body and mind, and of Heroa and Fea, or as we say in picture, the house and the indweller. For what is the death that you mourn but the severing of these two? And what is the deathlessness that you have lost, but that the two should remain united forever? But what then shall we think of the union in man of an indweller, who is but a guest here in Arda and not here at home, with a house that is built of the matter of Arda and must therefore, one would suppose, here remain? At least one would not hope for this house a life longer than Arda, of which it is part. Yet you claim that the house too was immortal, do you not? I would rather believe that such a fail of its own nature would at some time of its own will have abandoned the house of its sojourn here, even though the sojourn might have been longer than is now permitted. Then death would, as I said, have sounded otherwise to you, as a release or return, nay, as going home. But this you do not believe, it seems." "Nay, I do not believe this," said Andreth, "for that would be contempt of the body, and is a thought of the darkness unnatural in any of the Incarnate, whose life uncorrupted is a union of mutual love. But the body is not an inn to keep a traveler warm for a night, or he goes on his way, and then to receive another. It is a house made for one dweller only, indeed not only house, but raiment also. And it is not clear to me that we should in this case speak only of the raiment being fitted to the wearer rather than of the wearer being fitted to the raiment. I hold then that it is not to be thought that the severance of these two could be according to the true nature of men. For were it natural for the body to be abandoned and die, but natural for the Fea to live on, then there would indeed be a disharmony in man, and his parts would not be united by love. His body would be a hindrance at best, or a chain, an imposition indeed, not a gift. But there's one who imposes and who devises chains, and if such were our nature in the beginning, then we should derive it from him. But that you say should not be spoken. Alas, out in the darkness men do say this nonetheless, but not the Atanias thou knowest, not now. I hold that in this we are as ye are, truly incarnates, and that we do not live in our right being and its fullness save in a union of love and peace between the house and the dweller. Wherefore death, which divides them, is a disaster to both. Evermore ye amaze my thought, Andreth, said Finrod. For if your claim is true, then lo, a Fea, which is here, and the traveller is wedded indissolubly to a Heroa of Arda, to divide them is a grievous hurt, and yet each must fulfill its right nature without tyranny of the other. Then this must surely follow. The Fea, when it departs, must take with it the Heroa, And what can this mean, unless it be that the Fea shall have the power to uplift the Heroa as its eternal spouse and companion, and to an endurance everlasting beyond Ea and beyond time. Thus would Arda, or part thereof, be healed not only of the taint of Malcor, but released even from the limits that were set in the vision of Eru, of which the Valar speak. Therefore, I say that if this can be believed, then mighty indeed under Eru were men made in their beginning, and dreadful beyond all other calamities was the change in their state. Is it, then, a vision of what was designed to be when Arda was complete, of living things, and even of the very lands and seas of Arda made eternal and indestructible, forever beautiful and new, with which the Fëanor of men compare what they see here? Or is there somewhere else a world of which all things which we see, all things that either elves or men know, are only tokens or reminders? If so, it resides in the mind of Eru, I deem, said Andreth. To such questions, how can we find the answers here in the midst of Arda Mard? Otherwise it might have been, had we not been changed, but being as we are, even the wise among us have given too little thought to Arda itself, or to other things that dwell here. We have thought most of ourselves, of how our Heroa and Fëanor should have dwelt together forever in joy, and of the darkness impenetrable that now awaits us. Then not only the High Eldar are forgetful of their kin, said Finrod, but this is strange to me, and even as did your heart when I spoke of your unrest, so now mine leaps up as at the hearing of good news. This, then, I propound, was the errand of men, not the followers, but heirs and fulfillers of all, to hear the marring of Arda, already foreshadowed before their devising, and to do more, as agents of the magnificence of Eru, to enlarge the music and surpass the vision of the world. For that Arda healed shall not be Arda Mard, but a third thing and a greater and yet the same. I have conversed with Valar, who were present at the making of the music ere the being of the world began, and now I wonder, did they hear the end of the music? Was there not something in or beyond the final chords of Eru which, being overwhelmed thereby, they did not perceive? Or again, since Eru is forever free, maybe he made no music and showed no vision beyond a certain point. Beyond that point we cannot see or know, till by our own roads we come there, Valar or Eldar or men. As may a master in the telling of tales keep hidden the greatest moment until it comes in due course, it may be guessed that indeed, in some measures, by those of us who have listened with full heart and mind, but so the teller would wish. In no wise is the surprise and wonder of his art thus diminished, for thus we share, as it were, in his authorship. But not so, Var were told us in the preface before we entered in. What, then, would you say is the supreme moment that Eru has reserved? Andreth asked. Ah, wise lady, said Finrod. I am an Elder, and again I was thinking of my own people, but nay, of all the children of Eru, I was thinking that by the second children we might have been delivered from death. Forever, as we spoke of death being a division of the united, I thought in my heart of a death that is not so, but the ending together of both. For that is what lies before us, so far as our reason could see, the completion of Arda and its end, and therefore also of us children of Arda, the end when all the long lives of the elves shall be wholly in the past. And then suddenly I beheld as a vision Arda remained, and there the Eldar, completed but not ended, could abide in the present forever, and their walk, maybe, with the children of men, their deliverers, and sing to them such songs as, even in the bliss beyond bliss, should make the green valleys ring and the everlasting mountain tops to throb like harps. Then Andreth looked over her brows at Finrod. And what, when you were not singing, would you say to us? She asked. Finrod laughed. I can only guess, he said. Why, wise lady, I think that we should tell you tales of the past and of Arda that was before, of the perils and great deeds in the making of the Silmarils. We were the lordly ones then, but ye would then be at home, looking at all things intently as your own. Ye would be the lordly ones. The eyes of elves are always thinking of something else, you would say. But you would know then of what we were reminded of the days when we first met, and our hands touched in the dark. Beyond the end of the world, we shall not change, for memory is our great talent. I shall be seen ever more clearly as the ages of this art pass. A heavy burden be, I fear, but in the days of which we now speak a great wealth. And then he paused, for he saw that Andreth was weeping silently. Alas, Lord, she said, what then is to be done now? For we speak as if these things are, or as if they will assuredly be. But men have been diminished and their powers taken away. We look for no art ever made. Darkness lies before us, into which we stare in vain, and by our aid your everlasting mansions were to be prepared. They will not be builded now. Have ye then no hope? Said Finrod. What is hope? She said. An expectation of good, which, though uncertain as some foundation was known, then we have none. That is one thing that men call hope, said Finrod. Amdir we call it looking up, but there's another which is founded deeper. Esta we call it, that is trust. It is not defeated by the ways of the world, for it does not come from experience, but from our nature and first being. If we are indeed the Eruhin, the children of the One, then he will not suffer himself to be deprived of his own, not by any enemy, not even by ourselves. This is the last foundation of Estelle, which we keep even when we contemplate the end of all his designs. The issue must be for his children's joy. Amdir, you have not, you say. Does no Estelle at all abide? Maybe, she said, but no. Do you not perceive that it is part of our wound that Estelle should falter and its foundations be shaken? Are we the children of the One? Are we not cast off finally? Or were we ever so? Is not the Nameless the Lord of the world? Say it, not even in question, said Finrod. It cannot be unsaid, answered Andreth. If you would understand the despair in which we walk, or in which most men walk, among the Atani, as you call us, or the Seekers, as we say, those who left the lands of despair and the men of darkness and journeyed west in vain hope, it is believed that healing may yet be found, or that there is some way of escape. But is this indeed Estelle? Is it not Amdir, rather, but without reason, mere flight in a dream from what waking they know, that there is no escape from darkness and death? Mere flight in a dream, you say, answered Finrod. In dream many desires are revealed, and desire may be the last flicker of Estelle. But you do not mean dream, Andreth. You confound dream and waking with hope and belief to make the one more doubtful and the other more sure. Are they asleep when they speak of escape and healing? Asleep or awake, they say nothing clearly, answered Andreth. How or when shall healing come? To what manner of being shall those who see that time be remade? And what of us, who before go out into darkness unhealed? To such questions only those of the old hope, as they call themselves, have any guess of an answer. Those of the old hope? Said Finrod. Who are they? A few, she said, but their number has grown since we came to this land, and they see that the Nameless can, as they think, be defied. Yet that is no good reason. To defy him does not undo his work of old. And if the follower of the Eldar fails here, then their despair will be deeper. For it was not on the might of men, or of any of the peoples of Arda, that the old hope was grounded. What then was this hope, if you know? Finrod asked. They say, answered Andreth, they say that the One will himself enter into Arda and heal men and all the marring from the beginning to the end. This they say also, or they feign, is a rumor that has come down through years uncounted, even from the days of our undoing. They say, they feign, said Finrod. Are you then not one of them? How can I be, Lord? All wisdom is against them. Who is the one whom we call Eru, if we put aside the men who serve the nameless, as do many in Middle Earth? Still many men perceive the world only as it were between light and dark equipotent. But you will say, nay, that is Manwë and Malcor. Eru is above them. Is then Eru only the greatest of the Valar? A great god among gods, as most men will say, even among the Atani, a king who dwells far from his kingdom and leaves lesser princes to do here much as they will? Again you say, nay, Eru is one alone, without peer, and he made Ea and is beyond it, and the Valar are greater than we, but yet no nearer to his majesty. Is this not so? Yes, said Finrod. We say this, and the Valar we know, and they say the same, all save one. But which, think you, is more likely to lie? Those who make themselves humble, or he that exalts himself? I do not doubt, said Andreth, and for that reason the saying of hope passes my understanding. How could Eru enter into the thing that he has made, and than which he is beyond measure greater? Can the singer enter into his tale, or the designer into his picture? He is already in it, as well as outside, said Finrod. But indeed, the indwelling and the outliving are not in the same mode. Truly, said Andreth, so may Eru in that mode be present in Ea that proceeded from him. But they speak of Eru himself entering into Arda, and that is a thing wholly different. How could he, the greater, do this? Would it not shatter Arda, or indeed all Ea? Ask me not, said Finrod. These things are beyond the compass of the wisdom of the Eldar, or of the Valar maybe, but I doubt that our words may mislead us, and that when you say greater, you think of the dimensions of Arda, in which the greater vessel may not be contained in the less. But such words may not be used of the measureless. If Eru wished to do this, I do not doubt that he would find a way, though I cannot foresee it. For, as it seems to me, even if he in himself were to enter it, he must still remain also as he is, the author without. And yet, Andreth, to speak with humility, I cannot conceive how else this healing could be achieved, since Eru will surely not suffer Malcor to turn the world to his own will and to triumph in the end. Yet there is no power conceivable greater than Malcor save Eru only. Therefore Eru, if he will not relinquish his work to Malcor, who must else proceed to mastery, then Eru must come in to conquer him. More, even if Malcor, or the Morgoth that he has become, could in any way be thrown down or thrust from Arda, still his shadow would remain, and the evil that he has wrought and sown as a seed would wax and multiply. And if any remedy for this is to be found, or all is ended, any new light to oppose the shadow, or any medicine for the wounds, then it must, I think, come from without. Then, Lord, said Andreth, and she looked up in wonder, you believe in this hope? Ask me not yet, he answered, for it is still to me but strange news that comes from afar. No such hope was ever spoken to the Quendi. To you only it was sent, and yet, through you we may hear it and lift up our hearts. He paused a while, and then looking gravely at Andreth, he said, Yes, wise woman, maybe it was ordained that we Quendi and the Atani, ere the world grows old, should meet and bring news one to another, and so we should learn of the hope from you, ordained indeed, that thou and I, Andreth, should sit here and speak together across the gulf that divides our kindreds, so that while the shadow still broods in the north, we shall not be wholly afraid. Across the gulf that divides our kindreds, said Andreth, is there no bridge but mere words? And then she wept again. There may be, for some, I do not know, he said. The gulf, maybe, is between our fates rather, for else we are close akin, closer than any other creatures in the world. Yet perilous is it to cross a gulf set by doom, and should any do so, they will not find joy upon the other side, but the griefs of both. So I deem. But why dost thou say mere words? Do not words overpass the gulf between one life and another? Between thee and me surely more is past an empty sound. Have we not drawn near at all? But that is, I think, little comfort to thee. I have not asked for comfort, said Andreth. For what do I need it? For the doom of man that has touched thee as a woman, said Finrod. Dost thou think that I do not know? Is he not my brother dearly loved? Ignore, Canar, the sharp flame, swift and eager, and not long are the years since you first met and your hands touched in this darkness. Yet then thou wert a maiden, brave and eager, in the morning upon the high hills of Dorthonion. Say on, said Andreth. Say, who art not but a wise woman, alone, and aged I shall not touch him, as already set winter's grey in thy hair. But say not thou to me, for so he once did. Alas, said Finrod, that is the bitterness, beloved Andreth, women of men. Is it not? That has run through all your words. If I could speak any comfort, you would deem it lordly from one on my side of the sundering doom. But what can I say, save to remind you of the hope that you yourself have revealed? I do not say that it was ever my hope, answered Andreth. And even were it so, I would still cry, why should this hurt come here now? Why should we love you? And why should he love us, if he do, and he said, the gulf between? Because we were so made, close kin, said Finrod. But we did not make ourselves, and therefore we, the elder, did not set the gulf. Nay, Andreth, we are not lordly in this, but pitiful. That word will displease thee, yet pity is of two kinds. One is of kinship recognized, and is near to love. The other is of difference of fortune perceived, and is near to pride. I speak of the former. Speak of neither to me, said Andreth. I desire neither. I was young, and I looked on his flame, and now I am old and lost. He was young, and his flame leaped towards me, but he turned away, and he is young still. Do candles pity moths? Were moths candles, when the wind blows them out? Said Finrod. Andreth, I tell thee, Canar the sharp flame loved thee. For thy sake now he will never take the hand of any bride of his own kindred, but live alone to the end, remembering the morning in the hills of Dorthonion. But too soon in the north wind his flame will go out. Foresight is given to the Eldar, and many things not far off, though seldom of joy. And I say to thee, thou shalt live long in the order of your kind, and he will go forth before thee, and he will not wish to return. Then Andreth stood up and stretched her hands to the fire. Now why did he turn away? Why leave me? Why I had still a few good years to spend? Alas, said Finrod, I fear the truth will not satisfy thee. The Eldar have one kind, and ye another, and each judges the others by themselves, until they learn, as do few. This is time of war, Andreth, and in such days the elves do not wed or bear child, but prepare for death or for flight. Ignore has no trust, nor have I. In this siege of Angband will last long, and then what will become of this land? If his heart ruled, he would have wished to take thee and flee far away, east or south, forsaking his kin and thine. Love and loyalty hold him to his. What of thee to thine? Thou hast said thyself that there is no escape by flight within the bounds of the world. For 1 year, 1 day, of the flame I would have given all. Kin, youth, and hope itself, Andreth I am, said Andreth. That he knew, said Finrod, and he withdrew and did not grasp what lay to his hand. Elder he is, for such barters are paid for an anguish that cannot be guessed until it comes, and in ignorance rather than in courage the Eldar judge that they are made. Nay, Andreth, if any marriage can be between our kindred and thine, then it shall be for some high purpose of doom. Brief it will be and hard at the end. Yea, the least cruel fate that could befall would be that death should soon end it. But the end is always cruel for man, said Andreth. I would not have troubled him when my short youth was spent. I would not have hobbled as a hag after his bright feet when I could no longer run beside him." "Maybe not," said Finrod. "So you feel now, but do you think of him? He would not have run before thee. He would have stayed at thy side to uphold thee. And pity thou wouldst have had in every hour, pity inescapable. He would not have thee so shamed. Andreth, Adeneth, the life and love of the Eldar dwells much in memory, and we, if not he, would rather have a memory that is fair but unfinished than one that goes on to a grievous end. Now he will ever remember thee in the sun of morning, and that last evening by the water of Eluin, in which he saw thy face mirrored with a star caught in thy hair, ever until the north wind brings the night of his flame. Yeah, and after that, sitting in the house of Mondos in the halls of awaiting until the end of Arda. And what shall I remember? Said she. And when I go to what hall shall I come? To a darkness in which even the memory of the sharp flame shall be quenched? Even the memory of rejection? That at least. Finrod sighed and stood up. The Eldar have no healing words for such thoughts, Adeneth, he said. But would you wish that elves and men had never met? Is the light of the flame, which otherwise you would never have seen, of no worth even now? You believe yourself scorned. Put away at least that thought which comes out of the darkness, and then our speech together will not have been wholly in vain. Farewell. Darkness fell in the room. He took her hand in the light of the fire. Whither go you? She said. North away, he said, to the swords and the siege and the walls of defense, that yet for a while in Balerion rivers may run clean, leaves spring, and birds build their nests ere night comes. Will he be there, bright and tall, and the wind in his hair? Tell him not to be reckless, not to seek danger beyond need. I will tell him, said Finrod, but I might as well tell thee not to weep. He is a warrior, Andreth, and a spirit of wrath. In every stroke that he deals, he sees the enemy who long ago did thee this hurt. But you are not for Arda. Whither you go, may you find light. Await us there, my brother, and me. Kin, youth, and hope itself, Adeneth I am, said Andreth. That he knew.